Hey everybody, Daniel from Spacedock here, and since you all received the last unscripted video pretty well, I thought I'd try doing this top 5 video without a script. So if there are any problems, I do apologise in advance, but this time we'll be covering the top 5 exploration ships in science fiction. As always, this is not a comparison of technical quality or anything, simply my favourites in the order in which I prefer them. So first up we have the Asp Explorer from Elite Dangerous. First I'm going to have to confess that most of the Elite Dangerous designs don't really do much for me. I'm not much of a fan of the kind of Pilots Federation wedge-shaped thing. I get that it's like extrapolated from the original wireframe graphics and all that, but I tend to prefer... I like the Imperial designs from that game, and I like the new Alliance ship they recently revealed. The core group of Pilots Federation ships don't really do much for me, but one exception to that is the Asp Explorer, which I quite like. Immediately it reminds me of the Ghost, the VCX 100 from Star Wars Rebels, and you might not consider it to look much like an exploration ship on first glance because it kind of does look a bit gunship-ish. And there's another ship, in fact, the Diamondback, in the same game, which is also an explorer that looks like a gunship. But this fills a nice little niche that I like, which there aren't too many ships in, and there's another one you'll see later in this list of kind of scout-sized corvettes that have deployable rovers and are meant for sort of like charting unknown systems and such. I quite like that kind of idea. I like how this ship has a 2-deck large viewport for a good visibility and makes sense for an exploration ship. In fact, the lower deck of that is, I think, a dedicated observation lounge, which is pretty cool. And I just like the way this frame is laid out. It looks like there'll be a lot of space for utility in there, and we know that it has the retractable surface reconnaissance vehicle lift on the ventral hull. It's modestly armed, and it has space for a very powerful frameshift drive that can jump long distances in one go and then carry a lot of fuel so that it only occasionally has to perform fuel scooping operations to continue going. But like I said, this just has a bit more of an interesting shape to it than most of the similar ships from this kind of group, and I like the idea of small scout explorer vessels like this one. So here we have the Earthforce Explorer class from Babylon 5. This kind of design is right up my street, very grounded. It's almost the same length as Babylon 5 itself, and it makes perfect sense for the kind of long-haul voyages it's going to be on to have these huge centrifuge habs for habitation, and the large, powerful engines are held a long distance from any kind of inhabited areas. I like the number of different launch bays at the front of different sizes for shuttles and scout vehicles. It's kind of a shame that we only really got a close look at this ship in one episode of the show, but it was a really good episode with the whole chain of Star Furies rescuing it from hyperspace and all that. But overall, yes, a very grounded, realistic, long-haul exploration design. I'm a big fan. Next up, the Latter-day Saint starship Nauvoo, whose career is tightly tied into the narrative of the entire Expanse novel series, as anyone who's read them will know. This ship is another elegant simplicity kind of design. It's literally just a giant centrifuge drum, originally intended for a long-haul journey interstellar over many generations at sublight speeds, of course. So naturally, it's loaded with living space. It's literally just a flying city in space. All the usual amenities that you'd expect, comfortable gravity. The upper decks and the lower engineering decks have linear thrust gravity or no gravity when the ship is idle. Everything in between is centrifugal drum, and on either side of the drum, as is described in the books, there are lifts to connect the engineering deck to the bridge in case people need to travel up and down the length of the ship without entering the drum. Those of you who have only watched the show, there's a lot to come with this ship. There's lots of fantastic settings for events. It's just a great backdrop for anything that might be happening, really. It's a wonderful sci-fi location as well as a ship. And those of you who do watch the show, you'll know that it's already made a huge contribution to some fantastic visual effects sequences as it's pulling out of dry dock and as it's flying towards Eros and all that. Really cool stuff. So, Mass Effect Andromeda was perhaps not universally well received, but one thing that I think we can all agree is great from that game is the Tempest. I think this is a gorgeous ship. To be honest, I think almost everything that comes out of Mass Effect is gorgeous. It just has an amazing aesthetic everywhere. All the ships look great. But like I mentioned earlier, I love this kind of like scout corvette type thing with the rover and the sort of just small enough to land on planets, etc. And this is pretty much the apex of that kind of idea. I really like this. I mean, there are a few areas where it kind of strays too close to being some kind of luxury yacht, like this sort of ludicrous ludicrous amount of space that's devoted to the captain's quarters, and like vast amounts of transparent material used all the time and all that. But I think the interior layout is really nice. It all fits together very well and uses the limited space in a really nice way. And as with the Normandy and most Alliance ships or Andromeda Initiative ships, things that look like this, it just looks great in every shot that it's in, from every angle, flying through the atmosphere, descending to planets, etc. Just a gorgeous design with a lot of functionality. And like I said, Mass Effect is flawless really at hybridizing utility and style in that kind of way, and this is no exception to that rule. So it should be of no surprise to anyone that a Federation starship from Star Trek won the exploration ships video. I thought about picking the Constitution class, but in fairness, the Galaxy class is the definitive Explorer from Star Trek, really. This is the long-haul luxury liner that can also defend itself. Like, it's the, to say city in space again, it's kind of what it is. It's a comfortable ship designed for you to live on for years upon years as you survey gas giants in the middle of nowhere. And also, it's just gorgeous, isn't it? It's a gorgeous ship. Like, it's far from my favourite Federation starship, but it is a really nice design. And however it gets applied, whether it's blowing up Cardassian ships in the Dominion War or charting star systems or whatever, it always looks like it's completely appropriate for what it's doing. Like, it's a very adaptable ship. When it's being a battleship, it looks kind of tanky, and when it's doing its survey stuff, it looks completely appropriate with all of its shuttle bays and all of its utilities. It's a ship that never really seems like it's out of its depth. A good solid design, and one that has proven to be one of the biggest fan favourites in sci-fi history, and well deserved, really. Thank you for watching Spacedock. Please remember to like, subscribe and share for more science fiction spacecraft summaries. If you enjoy the channel, why not consider pledging your support on Patreon? For just $1 a month, you'll be able to access the Spacedock schedule to see what's coming up.